So I'm glad to have my teacher, my Taekwondo master Luis Tito, in this seminar, and I just forwarded to him. He's also a big particular lover of health. So I told him I'm going to take a class today. He's also here. Welcome, sir. Luis Tito, sir. Thank you. So basically, when we discuss about nature and health, it's a huge matrix. Like, we don't know where to start because it's something like a chicken and egg story. Where do we start? Where do we end? So in fact, I'm going to create a random discussion about a few random topics and try to connect them with each other, one link to each other. So probably when we start discussing about nature and health, we need to appreciate of the evolution of human beings in the last few millions of years, from what we evolved. Can we just mute a few? I think there is some sound disturbance coming up. If we can mute, everybody can mute, it will be useful. Thank you. When we discuss about nature and health, we need to definitely take up evolution as a subject matter, because human beings in the last millions of years evolved through a certain set of parameters. We can call it as the memory of the body and mind. So the major adaptations human beings had has reflected on its DNA, and most of our operations are based on this memory. So when we talk about health and nature, we need to appreciate that any disturbance which creates to that memory is going to have an impact, a telltale impact on human sustenance. Just not human sustenance. I think with respect to the health, with respect to day-to-day conduct of our life, this thought process that we have evolved through a certain set of chemical parameters in the nature, and anything foreign to that is going to create, it's something like a law of mass action. It is going to create its own impact in the general structure of health. So when we talk about the environment and health, what we need to examine is what happened in the last 40 to 50 years in the general chemical toxicity of the surface of the earth. So when we talk about toxicity in the surface of the earth, we start primarily accusing the industries. Okay, so industries create waste, industries generate effluent, it is discharged without any proper treatment, etc. Even considering that a good amount of industrial waste is getting discharged into the public domain, you will be surprised to note that the biggest polluter in this planet is not industry, it's a common citizen, just like me and you. So this is actually something which actually hit me. Like, so when I left I was actually basically a scientist in the phytopharma companies. So that was another story I think I should not talk about that now. So I actually got dejected by the phytopharma industry, and I thought I can help the society by coming out and create some programs for industrial waste management. I started to work on that. But when I started working on industrial waste management, what I realized is, as a society, we generate 1,000 times more waste than an average industry generates. For example, in an industry of around 100 people working, so they will be having especially in India and in most developing and developed countries, we have a reasonable amount of pollution control norms. Reasonable. I'm not telling it is exclusive, but definitely we cannot throw waste as with our whims and fancies. So imagine we are having an industry of around 100 people working. There is a reasonable amount of control. Now consider a society, a small housing colony of 100 people. The amount of waste they generate is 100 times more than, or what they discharge into the public domain is 100 times more than what an industry discharge. So how do you profile this? So imagine I am having an industrial colony of around 100 people. Right from getting up in the morning, I use my paste, I discharge. I use my soap, I discharge. I go to toilet, I discharge. I have my day-to-day waste I discharge. But if you are inside an industrial colony, you cannot do that. Every bit of effluent has to be treated, and you actually have to have zero discharge. You have to have a zero discharge facility. So this is where probably our discussion starts. As a society, we have been a bigger environmental polluter than all the industries put together. So here is where probably we need to figure out what is the problem we are creating as a common citizen. What is the problem we are creating, and how can we rectify this? And what are the impact of this waste we are generating to the environment and through it to our health? So when we talk about the discharge a common human being make, I have already mentioned about the paste, about the soap. So we all think it is basically, they are fine. So we don't know where is our paste waste going. Does anybody in this crowd know when I am spitting into the wash basin, where it is going? What is the chemical associated? What is the chemical available in the paste? When I am actually throwing out, spitting it out into the wash basin, where it is going? Am I aware? I am not aware. When I am using soap, it's going into the public domain. I don't know where it is going. What are the chemicals in that? So similarly, there is a huge lack of awareness in the day-to-day activities of a common human being. It's actually creating a huge impact. Let us analyze one by one. So I'm not getting into the paste soap business because it is very difficult to discuss about that. I will mention that in a later stage. But nevertheless, I will discuss a few things which probably you will appreciate. So common chemical toxicity, what I am seeing in the public domain, is basically because of non-biodegradable waste, plastic, paper, rubber, cloth, resin, leather. So there is a huge amount of these materials coming into the public domain, and there is a huge myth associated with recycling. So that is going to be the major point of our discussion today, and the associated health problems. So consider our non-biodegradable waste. So we have a myth that plastic is recyclable. I think everybody, probably most of you, are thinking that plastic is a recyclable material. You will be surprised to know that plastic doesn't have any recyclability. So when you design recyclability, we talk about water recycling. When I recycle water, water goes through a process, gets back as water. But plastic, it doesn't happen like that. So the best quality of plastic is virgin plastic, which can be blow molded into plastic films. This is what we are getting as plastic covers. But if you want to recycle the plastic cover, you cannot, once you melt it and create ingots or probably the granules, I cannot blow back it into, I think somebody is waiting in the waiting room. I'm seeing it in the top. I think somebody has to admit them. Thomas, she entered the waiting room. Dr. Hubbard, are you that? Yeah, sorry, I just saw some message. Somebody has to admit. Yeah, thank you. So the virgin plastic film, if we melt into granules and then again we try to blow it, it will not blow because the 50% elasticity is lost in the whole process. Now I can do an injection molding into a bucket or a mug or a chair. Now I have a broken mug or a bucket or a chair. I cannot inject further. I can do an extruding into a small bush, a black color bush, what we use in the bottom of the table. So with 3 cycles, the plastic recyclability is over. Now, either you have to burn it, or you have to bury it, or you have to throw it. Now is the point. Every day we are generating 1 million tons of plastic. 1 million tons of plastic every day in this planet. We have already generated over 100 billion tons of plastic. Not a single gram is recycled. All of them are at the surface of the earth. So now, what are the problems associated with plastic? So plastic per se, if you're talking about polypropylene, polyethylene, etc., they are all hydrocarbons. So they are mostly inert. Mostly inert in the sense, actually, it will lie down there for centuries together. It may create other environmental problems, but it will not generate a plastic toxicity problem in terms of chemical toxicity problem. It will create another environmental problem, which you are all aware, water percolations, etc. If it is burned, it will create carbon dioxide, carbon emission, global warming, stuff like that. But the major problem associated with plastic is plasticizers, fillers, and additives which you are adding to plastic molding. For example, when you're making plastic, we add plasticizers like phthalate, bisphenols, etc., which are basically for enhancing the flexibility. Nowadays, most of these additives, they are not only water solubles, are probably soluble in environment in ambient conditions, but most of them are 100% absorbed by body tissues, both plants and animals. So let us talk about a standard additive which we use, phthalate. Phthalate is an additive which we are using in many plastic items, and one of the major toxicity what is happening now in the current world is phthalate toxicity. And the problem with phthalate is it easily get absorbed in the gut, and this is one among the major reasons for creating liver kidney problems in the current era. So not only that, these are not recyclable. Second, it creates toxicity, such type of toxic environment. The next is, so this is a plastic recyclable myth which probably we need to be aware before start using any plastic material. Similarly with paper. So we all think that paper is from plants, it's cellulose, and we have been learning this process. So if you can find the primary difference between the paper what we have been using 50 to 60 years back and what we are using now, the major difference is the paper what we have been using around 50 years back will simply become a powder over 10 to 20 years. I think most of us would have experienced, most of us of around 50 years old, in our younger days, we can see the paper slowly changing color and it actually get tearing off. But the paper what we are using now, it will sustain for centuries. You know why? Because the paper is impregnated with chemicals which will prevent fungal infection or microbial infection. So paper is no more, it is no more a biological material, it is not an organic matter anymore. It's a chemical toxic material which has to be very carefully handled. As a paper, forget about printed paper and the printed ink, all the stuff. Just as white paper, bleached white paper is toxic. And many people actually add it into the composting bins and all. Composting bins for making as a drying material, stuff like that. All the microbes will die. So in this context, let's just think, when we are using a tissue paper, we get tissue paper free of cost everywhere. I have seen these people grabbing tissue paper in airports, in hotels, as if since it is free, they use it at will. So what actually they are doing, they are rubbing their entire body with peroxides, chlorides, chlorine, basically free radicals. So this is what actually is happening. So there is a huge awareness which has to happen. So this habit has been inculcated slowly. Most of us started using tissue paper when we got it a box free, when we actually put 500 liters, 500 rupees of petrol or diesel. If you remember, this is how actually we started using tissue paper. I don't think we would have purchased it ourselves because we are all carrying a handkerchief. Slowly, this habit has been shifted into tissue paper. So there are two damages what is happening in this tissue paper as well as paper management. One, definitely unnecessary destruction of the ecosystem. Second, the toxicity associated with the chemical impregnation of paper. So these are all things which probably is never discussed in a public ambience because there is no business. I am not here. Probably people like us don't have any offer. Otherwise, I should start probably a handkerchief business and tell that, okay, come on, use handkerchief and stop using tissue paper. So since I am not doing that, I'm actually in trouble. I have to wait for such forums to discuss about this matter. So this is about paper. Another very good candidate to discuss is leather. There is a very big miscommunication about leather. So we think leather is actually a very eco-friendly material because it is coming out of animal tissue. But I hope most of you know that leather actually is tanned. The leather tanning is done by chromium salt. Chromium is one of the most toxic chemical. And I have visited places in Tamil Nadu where actually there are tanneries. Unbelievable, tons and tons of chromium 6 salt is simply just delivered into the earth. That is actually a regional toxicity. Many people are suffering because of that. But imagine if you are throwing off a leather item into the public domain, just throwing off, think it will get decomposed. In fact, you are spoiling your own ecosystem because the leather will decompose pretty fast. The chromium will enter into your soil cycles, into the water cycles. It is going to come back to you. So please beware when you want to buy a leather chappal. So I have seen people buying leather goods, freaking out with leather goods. Many people have many bags, many leather slippers for every birthday, for every function. They keep buying it. There should be an awareful, purchase. There should be an awareful purchase, because I am having a purse. I think I am having it for the last 10 years. So every time my family sees this purse, they will offer me another purse. It is not that I cannot afford to buy a purse, but I don't know what to do with the existing purse. It's a leather purse that itself was actually got it as a second hand from one of my waste bins. And I am using it for 10 years and I don't know how to dispose it, because I am sure the moment I am throwing it off, actually I am going to kill a few human beings. So one leather footwear, or probably a leather handbag, can even have grams level of chromium. Please understand that 5 to 10 milligrams of chromium is sufficient for killing a person. So we are killing hundreds of people. So we don't have any clue what is happening actually when you are purchasing and throwing off. So I can create a huge list of such products. Another good candidate is e-waste. So I think most of you would have been aware of what is happening to our e-waste. Most of it contain lead, for example. Electronic good has soap. I just want to bring your attention to our probably younger days when we randomly used to use iron soldering and do soldering of electronic goods. We would have seen people actually in and around our community who are using soldering iron. So they just put this soldering iron over a lead there is a lead coil, and then they will shake it off for throwing off the bubbles of lead. Each lead bubble which is getting out is around 5 to 10 milligrams, sufficient to kill one person. There is no regulation, though, no restriction using lead. You can buy lead anywhere in India from an electronic shop. Go to your house, your children will be playing around with that soldering electronic goods. Every globule of lead getting out of that lead coil is a killer. So we are not aware, we're just thinking everything is taken care, but it is not taken care. So we are expecting people to take care of this. And why? Because despite having so much of education, these points are not discussed in the public domain. Similarly, batteries. The batteries, thank God, actually it has changed to lithium now. I don't know what toxicity lithium is going to create, but for the last few years, every 2 to 3 years, we would have changed our mobile phone battery, which is basically nickel cadmium. So one battery will be having around few grams of cadmium. We have been randomly throwing it around. All these things have come into the ecosystem. So the purpose of the discussion is to create some awareness that, everything what we are using. So we are thinking that somebody is sitting and watching all these things. Somebody is creating some systems for management. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. So this is where probably as doctors, as people who are actually worried about health, we need to understand. So probably sometimes you'll be wondering what is happening to the health of human beings, seeing so much of problems around. So these problems are not just because of some infection, some bacteria, mostly is because of such type of chemical toxicity happening here. So one major chemical toxicity which we are seeing is because of disposable items. Paper cup, paper plate, aluminum foil, thermocol cutleries. So these PET bottles. Okay, so just examine this paper cup and paper plate. Most of us know that, and we have seen many examples where we have seen when you pour a hot beverage like a tea or coffee into a paper cup, a little amount of plastic will melt and get into the chai. It has not made any hesitation for most of us sitting in this discussion. We still keep drinking from a paper cup. So there is no hesitation, despite knowing that. That is actually the funniest part. Now, another factor which I am going to tell you will really shock you. Forget about the plastic items. Most of these plastic things which get into your gut will actually get excreted because it is inert material, mostly polypropylene and polyethylene. But there we are adding a chemical plasticizer called phthalate again for creating such a small micron thickness of plastic for coating paper. That phthalate is water soluble. You cannot even put plain drinking water into a paper cup. Now is a challenge. Most of these hygiene conscious people, especially, I'm not discriminating, especially women, they not only take a very, very, very much awareful about this hygiene issue. They are bothered about toxic infection due to microbes. What they do, they not only feed themselves, but they also give to children. So look at us. Most of us actually who are around 40 to 50 years old, we would have lived our first 25 to 30 years without none of this nonsense. And that's how we are surviving. Imagine a kid who was born 15, 20 years back. From day one, they are exposed to paper cups, phthalate toxicity. So if you're talking about paper cup and paper plate, if it is phthalate toxicity in nano or picogram level, the entire PET water bottle is phthalate, polyethylene terephthalate. It has to be manufactured and kept under 20 degrees centigrade. That's what they mean by telling it keep in cool place. Because phthalate is not food grade. So what happens actually when you are storing water in phthalate over 20 degrees centigrade, phthalates start leaching out into the water. This is why we are getting a buff taste for sometimes water bottles, because it is manufactured in 30 to 40 degrees centigrade. It is transported inside a plastic cover in a lorry exposed to sunlight. And in India, most of these PET bottles it will be hanging upside down in front of the shops. And then it goes to the fridge. By the time whatever phthalate has to get out of the bottle would have come out. Another huge toxic problem in this current era. Another toxicity material, aluminium. So I think most of us are aware that we are not supposed to cook in aluminium utensils, despite I'm telling you very, very hardcore advertisement from aluminium utensils manufacturing company. Nobody is watching it. It is well established fact that aluminium makes its oxide both in acidic and basic condition. That's very established fact. Aluminium is a very what do you call it, very active metal. It creates its oxide. Now the problem with aluminium oxide. So here, in fact, I invited Dr. Chakrabani also from QSAT. He'll be a good speaker for your forum. Dr. Chakrabani is working on neurosciences. He's actually head of the Department of Neurosciences in Cochin University of Science and Technology. His area of work is on gut microbe. What he has found is aluminium, especially metal toxicity, change the gut microbes. They create mutagenicity, creates mutation on the gut microbe, and the gut microbe starts creating a protein which migrate all the way up to the brain, creating plaques, which is the primary responsibility for Alzheimer's, dementia, schizophrenia. Can you believe this? So the entire aluminium toxicity is linked with neuropsychological problems. So this is one area which probably you need to figure out. So because why I'm telling this, because most of the doctors will be worrying why this sudden enhancement of diseases. Most of the diseases are created by such type of hygiene. I am calling it a pseudo hygiene consciousness. In Malayalam, we call it illatha vrittibodham. So this pseudo hygiene consciousness is an output of the European microbiology. See, the European microbiology has come out from a climate which is 18 degrees centigrade. So microbes don't grow there. The entire place is sterile. But Europeans traveled across the globe. And most of this travel happened to the tropical countries where the temperature is around 35 to 40 degrees centigrade, which we call it as an incubation climate. And the incubation climate, these Britishers, Portuguese, Spanish guys, they got infected left and right because they didn't have any microbial memory. So what happened? They started creating a lifestyle which was against microbial proliferation. They created a system which communicates that presence of microbes create infection. Actually, it's a lack of immunity. So we the tropical country fellows who are living in a pool of microbes, I would like to tell you this. Actually, today's temperature in Kerala is around 30 degrees, 32 degrees centigrade. I took a bath in the morning. Within 4 hours, my body is having infectious quantities of microbes. Nobody can stop it because it is coming to feed the dead cells. All of us. Otherwise, every 3 hours, we have to take a bath, that too with antiseptics, if you want to prevent microbial growth. It's not going to happen. So what is actually happening is, in one side, we are having an ecosystem, a condition where we are having a microbial proliferation. And in another side, we are trying to sanitize the whole area. So what is happening now is millions and millions of tons of antiseptics are being poured. Chlorine. We all know chlorine is such an anti-cancer, it's a carcinogen. But there is no respite. We don't have any rationality in using chlorine. Actually, I was in Shabarimala for a few years trying to do some green protocol activities. One major problem I found is actually, more than the environmental disaster is the chlorine. People are using bleaching powder at will. They just throw it inside the forest. So this is, and the whole entire chlorine is carried away in the Pamba, in the river, in the Pamba, and it's coming to the Kuttanad. So we are actually creating a huge, chemical, toxic, carcinogenic chlorine pool because of this pseudo hygiene consciousness. And unfortunately, it starts with doctors, including homeopathy doctors, allopathy doctors. Every doctor is actually responsible for this. I'm sorry to say that, and the other side of the spectrum, and they are responsible for this. And this is also a class syndrome. Please understand, in India, the entire hygiene came from our caste system. The upper caste can create waste, they are hygiene, it's a class. The lower class is actually unhygiene. So we are actually trying to create our own class. We are telling that I am class, so I am having a yucky feeling. So please understand that it is actually highly unscientific to say that, especially in a tropical country at 35 degrees centigrade and 70% humidity, it is impossible to get rid of microbes. Every time you try to get rid of microbes, they will mutate. I don't know how many of you have seen that Harvard experiment. Please check the Harvard experiment on microbes. So what they did is actually they made a big petri dish, and they put the microbial media. They inoculated bacteria in rings, and in each ring they put an antibiotic. So from the out, just check it. I cannot explain it unless I have to show the video. Just check the Harvard experiment on microbial mutation. So the outer ring didn't have any antibiotic. The inner rings had antibiotics. Within 6 months, the bacteria reached the innermost ring, mutating 16 times within 6 months. So whom are you fighting with? We cannot fight the bacteria. The only solution is to enhance the immunity. And I'm glad that, homeopathy discuss about that. The Ayurvedam discuss about that. And this is actually a huge conflict probably I am seeing in terms of health and environment. So getting back to the chemical toxicity. So knowing this, probably what, so I cannot keep on harping about, the problems and, the issues associated with, I also have to give the solutions. So just want to say, probably Dr. Hubert was reading my profile. He had mentioned that, I was a joint executive coordinator of National Games. Of course, I'm a sports person thanks to my teacher, Louis Tito, but that has nothing to do with my association in National Games. In National Games, I was actually the green protocol coordinator. For the first time in the world, we fed every day 1 lakh people without any disposables, no paper cup, no paper plate, no PET water bottle, no aluminum foil, no thermocol. I want to talk about thermocol. Thankfully, it is now out of business now. Thermocol is a material made up of styrene. And for taking styrene in my research lab, I have to have the complete 5th level of security or safety, including gas mask. And we are eating food out of a cutlery made out of styrene. So this is actually the stupidity we do. Because why? We are scared about microbes. Because I don't want to eat from a cutlery which has been eaten by somebody, because which I will get a microbial infection. I would like to request all the doctors here, all the scientists or doctors and people who are in this association, have you ever found a research paper which communicates that if I am eating from a plate, I am washing it reasonably well. I'm not even sterilizing. I am washing it reasonably well. And if somebody eats food from that plate, they will get microbial infection. Have you ever seen a research paper communicating this with statistical significance? It has been a communication made by a hypothesis, probably for preventing a cholera infection. It's all fine. But unfortunately, that communication has gone so deep, it has made people stupid. And they have created alternatives which are more chemically toxic. For preventing people from using reusable cutleries, we created toxic disposable items, which is creating the biggest problem. So in National Games, we conducted a program. Every day we fed people with 1 lakh food we gave without any disposables. Everybody used reusable stainless steel porcelain cutleries. Even melamine. We use plastic plates also fine, but we wash and reuse. I would like to add one more point in this matter. So there is a misconception that plastic is bad. But I would like to say that a good plastic in terms of polypropylene and polyethylene is actually having less carbon footprint than the metal or wood equivalents or clay. So plastic is not the problem. The additives are the problem. The second problem is single-use plastic. So we need to address the problem on its base. The moment I am telling all the plastics are bad, actually I am wrong. It's not like that. The problems are single-use disposable plastics as well as the additives in plastic. So we don't have to have additives in plastic if you are creating reusable high-density polyethylene or polypropylene. We can simply make white color inert polyethylene, polypropylene, which can stay with us for years together. So that is actually the approach we are trying to promote and propagate. Coming back to the entire discussion about the chemical toxicity I've been discussing about. So yeah, so the point is like, how do we tackle this? So this is where probably the responsible living come into play. So I carry my own water bottle. I beg, borrow, steal water wherever I am. I have not purchased a pet water bottle in my life. So wherever I go, I'm having a water bottle. I take water from railway stations or from hotels. I even had fight with hotel people if they don't give me water. And it's my right to get drinking water. So let us all create an example. See, we have been carrying water bottles up to 10th standard, right? And we are also puny. We couldn't even carry 1 kg of water bottle. But after that, suddenly we decided that, we are all fashionable. So we cannot carry any water bottle. And that's actually so we are actually forcing our children to carry a water bottle, and we ourselves are actually buying pet water bottles and drinking out of it. And now this is a time for change. Let us show examples to others by carrying our own water bottles. Stop using disposable paper cups, paper plates, etc. in any function. Let us work on reusable cutleries. And here is where probably we also have to restart this habit, wash our own cutlery. So again, these are all, unnecessary habits inculcated on us. In our younger days, we used to eat our food, we used to wash our utensils, and there was no such problem. If we ask somebody, why are you going to have disposable cutleries? They will tell, oh, who is there to wash? Come on, I will wash. So this should be the habit. So such type of small problems should not create a situation where you have to inculcate an unnecessary habit in chemical toxicity. Just because I cannot wash my plate and glass, should I purchase a paper cup and paper plate? Means there is no meaning in education. We have gone away from education. So let us stop using the disposable items. So next is the third problem is parcel food. I'm sure most of us would have purchased a parcel food, and just check how did you throw it off. Actually, since I am working on waste management, my major problem is parcel food waste. So now you buy a dosha or idli, you get one plastic cover in idli, another chutney plastic cover, another sambar plastic cover. Now we are praying, please don't have one more chutney because it will become another plastic cover. All these things we will make a bundle in the fourth plastic cover and we throw it. There is no technology in the world which can take care of that. So now what is happening? Here is where the biggest problem of chemical toxicity is happening. The entire packet is not recyclable, and there is only one way to do that, is to burn it off. So here is where, when I am burning a packet of mixed waste, every kg of plastic mixed waste along with the food items will create dioxin and furan, the most toxic gases ever seen. So far we have seen dioxin and furan are the most toxic gases. 1 kg of mixed plastic can generate up to 25 to 30 milligrams of dioxin and furan. 5 milligram is sufficient for killing one person. Imagine I am burning plastic and I am just putting a mask onto his nose and giving 5 milligrams. 6 months he is gone. Thankfully, this dioxin and furan will actually act very slowly. It will enter into our body very slowly and it will react very slowly. I just want to catch the attention of people who are in and around Kochi, if at all, if somebody is there. More than 3 to 4 lakhs tons of mixed plastic burned in Brahmapuram in March. Kilograms of dioxin and furan is distributed. Quintals of dioxin and furan is distributed around 40 kilometers in diameter around Brahmapuram plant. Its life is 10 years. It is more denser than air. Every time there is an air turbulence, it will go up, get into your breath, and then settles down. It's like a rakshasa, like the rakshasa which will keep on burning, which will keep on having birth. Dioxin and furan are like that. Why? Why we have created most of this dioxin furan is coming from parcel food. I carry my own tiffin carrier. I carry my own tiffin carrier, and I am having one sabji dabba also. So this is the lifestyle probably what we have to generate, and what will happen is the business will also adjust. I also would like to conclude with one more topic which probably we are trying to do. So we have two topics, in fact, two just mentioning and just, and I'm winding it up. One is we are talking about all these carry bags, plastic covers, but the entire grocery supply chain, including milk, is coming in plastic, because we have created some sort of a system where we can approve and acknowledge only products coming out of plastic. So this is something which they have taught us. The business has taught us. So we are creating a supply chain of package-free grocery supply chain where we can reuse dabbas. So this is happening now in Varakanjeri. We are initiating it. I also would like to bring your attention to one gentleman, Mr. Bittu John, who has opened up package-free groceries in Kolanjeri, Tripunithara, and Parampalli Nagar. We have to start promoting such industries and businesses. There is no other way, because we are extremely controlled by businesses who are making us decide how to live. And just, the last mention, why I'm mentioning this last, because I am a man and I am actually encroaching on a woman's territory. What is the biggest problem I am facing next to the parcel food, or probably much more bigger than parcel food, is napkins. Say a woman, and I'm taking an advanced bail. I know that I am a man. I don't have any right to complain about it, because I am not actually troubled by using napkin. But the problem with diaper and napkin is every napkin generates 25 to 30 milligrams of dioxin and furan, and it is burned in your vicinity. And the dioxin and furan which is coming out is denser than air. It settles down in around 1 to 2 feet from the ground. Just guess who is going to get affected by this? Your own children. So burning napkin in your vicinity is one of the most toxic things what we can do in our life. So there is a huge possibility of changing to menstrual cup. And the problem with menstrual cup is a huge taboo. And here the men have to get involved. Menstruation is just not a women's problem. It's a family's problem. So this is where probably you can help, your daughter, your wife, your mother, if at all they are menstruating, how they can shift to menstrual cup as early as possible. And this is one product, if it was actually discovered or invented in 2023, it should have never got approval. 100% sure. Unfortunately, this was actually invented around 25 years back. At that time, it was a big savior for women who are struggling, regarding, because we had so many stigma. But now many women are getting back to cloth, reusable cloth napkins, due to multiple reasons. One is burning dioxin furan. Second, the acrylic gel, what we are using inside a napkin, it has unpolymerized monomers. In a wet condition, it can migrate from your napkin up to your uterus. These are all common sense which probably cannot be communicated, because there is nothing to sell from our side. So I'm thanking the entire homeopathy fraternity and other people who are associated in this discussion for giving this opportunity to communicate my ideas. Thank you so much. It is not that plastic cannot be recycled. The plastic milk cover can be recycled, but it cannot be recycled back into the milk cover. It can be recycled into a plastic bucket. And after the plastic bucket is broken, it becomes a bush. Done. Only 3 levels of recyclability. That is actually the awareness what we should have.
Can we have a plastic in road construction? This will create a situation that will help us to dispose a major chunk of this plastic. Similarly, we can think of by research.
Sorry, sir. You are telling about plastic to road?
Yeah, that's
okay. Oh, come on. Yeah, I would like to interfere in there.
Yeah. Let me complete.
Yeah, sure.
It is. I think there is scope for disposing a large chunk of this plastic waste by using this plastic through some process under road construction. That will help the road also, the durability of the road, fault-free roads, and all that. That is one solution for this. We have to find out some solutions for all this. Then only we'll be able to live as a human being, as you rightly pointed out. Can we use this to some extent, or what extent we can use this for road construction. Similarly, other waste also. Please.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking up this point. In fact, I was one of the researchers with Professor Vasudevan who invented this and patented it. So what actually was the original technology was, we should heat the gravel, the metal, the stones in a big vessel, and then they put plastic onto that, coat the stones, put it under, and then we have to tar. Now, please understand the bitumen or the tar, which is actually an output of an enormous amount of petrochemical activities. So basically, you are aware, the bitumen is basically something which come out of catalytic cracking, pressure. We take a petrochemical crude oil, we get everything out. What is left behind is bitumen. It is one of the toughest material in the surface of the earth. The bitumen's molecular weight is around 500 moles molecular weight, and its melting glass transition temperature is around 500 degrees centigrade. Not melting, just glass transition. It simply just swells. Versus plastic. Plastic, the domestic plastic, what we are using is having a molecular weight of around 100-150 grams per mole, and its melting point is around 200 degrees centigrade. So what we found is, if you are using plastic in the surface of the road, with one screech of brake, it will create microplastics. Now plastic is getting into the soil, into the water. By the time it gets back to human body, it will take around a few years. But if I am going to use it in, so what has happened in the existing PWD norms is, they are mixing this plastic with tar. So this is actually, this is what, so they found a solution for using it on road, but they are not mixing it with the stones because it is very expensive. They have to have big heating vessels. They have to heat up the stone. They have to use a lot of fuel, and then they have to put the plastic, mix it, then put it down, then put the bitumen. They didn't find it practical. So what they found is, especially the plastic industry lobbied with the government and such scientists. They taught the PWD to mix it with bitumen and put in the surface. Let me ask you one thing. Before even India started using plastic, the entire European community and America was using this. Are they using plastic into the road? So this is a thought process which I had and we examined. They are not using. They will never use plastic in the road because they have realized that plastic in the road will create microplastics. Microplastics is going to be the next big killer. It can create entire lungs to collapse because it is all in micron level. It cannot be filtered, not even through a proper filtration system. So we completely red flagged the plastic to road activity. There was another system which came at waste to energy plants, which can convert plastic into fuel. There also only 40 to 50% of long chain aliphatic hydrocarbons can be used, catalytically converted into fuel. 60%, especially polycarbonate, polyacrylate, such type of condensation polymers, they were all becoming a chemical tar. So conclusion is, there is no escape from plastic. Please understand, there is no escape from plastic. The solution is, when we start creating, we can use plastic. It has to be reused many times. So we have to create reusable plastic containers which can go into cycle. Second, as social leaders, we have to promote package-free grocery supply chain. For example, milk. We have to promote milk near our house. We have to support the system. If somebody is actually having milk in his vicinity, go and buy it, or ensure that it is getting supplied to our house. For convenience, you can go and get in Milma, but that is an irresponsible living. This is where probably we have to disrupt the business so that the Milma will start thinking about the age-old system of delivering milk in containers. If you remember, we had a milkman who used to come and deliver milk in vessels. Why it has been stopped? Because one is basically he used to add water that we can take care. But now, second problem was actually convenience. You can give off the packet any time. So we need to understand and appreciate that we cannot have short-term solutions. One solution is going to create more problems. I hope I conveyed that.
That means we have no escape from this hazardous material.
Absolutely.
Okay. There is scope for research on this, I think.
So certain things, for example, I was talking about napkin. It was a stupid product. Rather, the entire community has to accept that, for example, what is an advertisement which is shown in TV? a girl is actually, feeling very ashamed by a menstrual stain in her back. Rather teach the humanity that, it's okay to see a menstrual stain in the back is okay. And let the women don't get ashamed about it. This is a psychological training what we have to impart, rather than finding a stupid solution for that. This is actually the take home.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj Narayan. This is an excellent session. Today, you took away the peace from ours. I'm not going to sleep today because the phthalates, the chromium, the lead, everything will be popping up. And you spoke to the right persons itself, because we are the persons who is having the social responsibility to teach the persons in front of us as the patients. They are coming in a lot, and homeopathy is the least carbon carbon footprint which is leaving. It is the least medicine which is leaving the carbon footprints in the lot. And it's great session, sir. So I think we need to have a session, another seminar on this, and be here. Thank you.
I just want to conclude my session.
Yeah.
I just want to make a remark. See, my life changed when I actually got into the environmental thought process. Also, when actually I got interacted with people like Louis Tito sir, etc. So what I'm suggesting is, I would like, your forum to have a discussion also with Louis Tito sir, because he taught me how to be physically fit. And being physically fit actually made a huge difference in the thought process in the body, mind, sense complex. So I will definitely introduce Louis Tito sir to Danish sir, and if possible, an interaction through him will be possible. Thank you.